All right, guys. Today, joining us on the podcast is our guest, Laura New. Laura is a professional dancer, actor, writer, and artist whose professional career began at 16 years of age, where she performed at the opening and closing ceremonies of the 2000 Sydney Olympics. Since then, she has performed and taught all around the world, sharing the stage with international artists such as Busta Rhymes, 112, Pitbull, LMFAO, the Black Eyed Peas, and more. Laura was also a member of an American pop girl group, BG5, who were established by the American record producer Rock Mafia. In 2015, Laura made it all the way to the finals of America's Got Talent with the 3D video mapping act, Free Illusion, who combined lighting and projected imagery with the art form of dance to create a beautiful, illusory storytelling experience. In more recent times, Laura performed at London's West End, Las Vegas, New Zealand, and also toured all across Australia with Blanc de Blanc, a live cabaret stage show, which included song, dance, aerial stunts, comedic acts, and much more. So with that, it's our pleasure to welcome Laura New to our podcast. Thanks for joining us today.
Hi, thanks for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure to have you here. Wow, you've got such an illustrious career so far. It's amazing.
Adventurous.
Yeah, it sounds very adventurous. And yeah, I'd love for you to take us back to where it all began, as far back as you'd like to go. Love to hear, where it all started and what's happened along the way to bring you to where you are now.
Yeah, amazing. Well, I grew up in Sydney, Australia, and I actually went to school with Leslie. Can I say that?
Of course you can.
We went to school together and in Nanai. And I grew up, I was very adventurous and the sky was the limit and, you couldn't tell me no, really. So I decided to pursue a career in dance. I started dancing at a school up in Menai called Dance Kinetic. And I was mentored by a great teacher called Lisa Ross, who's now Lisa Bomer. She owns a school here called Evan Bow. And that really made me the dancer I became. I didn't know that I was going to get into the world of becoming a professional dancer. I didn't know that was in store for me. I went to UNSW and studied a Bachelor of Arts and a Bachelor of Education in dance and theatre. So I knew it was something that I loved. I just didn't know how I was going to make it a career. And so, yeah, and then I started working in Sydney, more so as a commercial dancer, which means like I performed the MTV Music Awards and worked with different artists here. I think my first real thing was the opening and closing ceremonies. Like you said, I was singing as the cauldron was going up on that stage. That was a pretty awesome experience. And then I pursued a career in dance. I ended up booking a touring show in Asia, and I went over and then visited my girlfriend in Los Angeles, California. We had gone to Sydney Dance Company together, and she was like, just come and visit me for 2 weeks, you'll love it here, there's lots of work, and just come and visit me. So I went over there for 2 weeks to LA. And then, that turned into 13 years later. I ended up staying and I booked a job within those 2 weeks. I went to an audition that she was going to, and there was hundreds of girls there, and I went in and I learned it up the back sort of secretly, and then I ended up getting told to stay and then continued being told to stay. And I was really lucky. There was an agent on the panel of the show, and they offered to give me my O1 3-year visa, which is an artist visa in the United States, and allows me to work as a performer. And so I was given that, and I was given a job that toured around 22 cities in America. For the first, it was a big bus tour with an artist, and then my career started rolling as a professional dancer. So I've been over in LA, and like Leslie said, I've worked with I've had a pretty fruitful career because I sing, dance, and act. I like doing all three. So I've been able to like work with artists, and then I was in a girl group where we signed to Hollywood Records, and we put out some music, and we did a tour of London in the UK. And then I went back and worked as a professional dancer on like many seasons of The Voice. I did America's Got Talent with Freelusion, which was a great Hungarian company who do video mapping. And then, then I've done a bunch of different stuff, and then ended up coming back to the Sydney Opera House to do Blanc de Blanc. But anyway, that's my like performer gist. And then now I am currently writing. I'm started my second screenplay, and I'm in an acting conservatory. So my focus has shifted the last year because I am at heart a storyteller, and I have been through dance. And so now I am using, my entire vessel, my entire instrument now, and that is my journey at the moment. And I'm loving it. I'm writing and acting and storytelling and producing, and that's what's going on.
Amazing. Sounds like you have so much going on, and you've had so much going on, for 2 weeks, or what you thought was 2 weeks, to turn into the 13-year career in Los Angeles, and so much still going on. It's just amazing. And it sounds like you've just put one foot in front of the other over and over and over again, and just really followed your passions and your dreams. So is that what you were like? You mentioned that you were really adventurous and that, wouldn't take no as a child. Was that how you were, like super, super young? Was dance something you always did, or how did you come to be so adventurous?
Well, it wasn't something I always did. I danced a little bit, I think from like 3 to 4, but then I was a bit more of a tomboy. So I was very sporty, and, my parents were always telling me to focus on my studies. But I think it was the way I was brought up. My mother was always very much like, dream big, really dream big, because you can achieve anything you want to achieve. And so I just had that strength and that passion, and I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. And it was sort of one foot in front of the other, because, in my industry, there's a lot of rejection constantly. You're constantly failing. You're constantly picking yourself back up again. And you're like, all right, on to the next thing. And you have to continually come back to the question of, why am I doing this? Why am I here? Why am I doing this? And it's, because you love it. And I've always, been driven by my passion. I think there's something I always say is, let your passion burn brighter than your fears. It's not my quote, it's someone else's quote. But that one really, it resonates with me, because it's, you have one life, and I've done other jobs and things like that, but I didn't love it. And I was like, okay, I'm going to continue doing what I love. And I think when I didn't dance. So I didn't dance from like 2. And then at 16, my girlfriend was like, you have really great rhythm. Like, I've started this dance class, you should come. So I went with her after school, one of my bestest friends to this day. She's in New York following her dreams. She's a set designer. And she was like, come. And then I just sort of had a natural raw ability for it. And my teacher gave me a year scholarship, and she was like, I want you to train in every single style, because you have something. And so she really was like my mentor, and she was like, you can do this. You can do this. You can really do this. So, and that's what's driven me, I think, to this day. And a lot of people are like, what industry are you in again? Isn't that like really tough? And it is tough. It's a really, really tough industry. But I think if you love it and you have the tenacity to continue doing it, then that's why I've continued doing it, I guess.
That's amazing. And I want to draw you back to something you said earlier, Laura. So this is something that sort of stuck out when you were sort of explaining your story or sharing your story with us, when you said you loved it, but you didn't really know how to make a career of it, right? And then, you're talking about the things like, the reality of the industry you're in terms of the amount of rejection that you get. Mm-hmm. And I guess the thick skin you will require to be, I guess, consistent in coming back for this. Like, explain that to me, especially at a young age, like, because I think the prospect of loving something, but not knowing how to then turn that into a career, it really extinguishes the flame for a lot of people. And then they just go into like the conventional career path that society tells you to follow, right? But I want you to talk about that a little bit more. Like, put us into, you know, your shoes when you were, you know, at that age, loving what you were doing, but not really knowing how to turn that into something that you know you could sustain as a lifestyle going forward.
Right. Yeah, I think it's funny. The last couple of days, this has been coming up quite a bit because productions are starting to go back into filming and things are really happening here. A lot of auditions have been coming in the last 2 weeks. And I was like, why? How do I just keep stepping into the unknown? Like, I've continued to just step into the unknown and not knowing what's going to come up. Sometimes, you know, in the States, my first year in LA was so tough. Like, I had no money. I was like, how am I going to do this? I had got a job, but there was a moment there where you had to wait 30 days for your check to come in. It's this, I don't know, this American thing. And so it was risky, you know, it's very risky. It was always very risky. But I think it was just like knowing, okay, I want to do this. And I know I'm going to continue to step into the unknown constantly with it. But I know I can make, you know, the first jobs, and when the jobs started coming in, I knew that I could make a career out of it. I didn't know how long it was going to be. And I don't know if I would give this advice to everybody, but I honestly didn't ever have a plan B. There was no backup plan for me. It was like, this is what I'm going to do. And if this doesn't work out, I'll have to figure something out, obviously. But I'm going to put all my eggs in this basket. And that's what I did. And it, you know, it worked out for me. And I think it was like my constant push. Like, I was getting up at 6 a.m. to go train and do my classes and be at the gym and work vocal lessons and training again. And then making sure, you know, when a project came in, I was like checking who the choreographer was, checking what production it was, getting, you know, constantly educating myself and training and working on my craft, and knowing that like the next job will come if I continue to, you know, really zone in. And I think that's, in my industry, I think it is an all or nothing, you know, sort of industry, but it does, the exciting part about it is that it does take a team to do what I do. You know, there is lighting designers, there is choreographers, there is producers, there's directors, there's all these different people that you work with, and they're all doing the same thing that you do. They are freelance sometimes as well. They are working job to job because they love it. You know, I've been on a couple sets with directors, and you know, there's a moment you stop and you're shooting till 2 a.m. and they're like, why are we doing this? And we're like, because we love what we do, you know? And that's, you know, that's what's kind of like zoned me in. And then you get off that job and you're like, okay, I'm looking for the next job. But if I'm constantly staying focused on what I want, setting my goals, and then, just like I said, zoning in, then I know it'll work out. And like, look, there's been times when I have failed too, you know, and I haven't worked for a period of time, and I'm like, okay, rent's coming up, I've got to figure this out. But I continued to push, and then of course the universe aligned and said, okay, you want this? All right, let's go. So does that answer your question?
Oh, totally. And like, you know, I'm gonna one up you and say that I would totally, you know, offer that advice to people in terms of like, you know, not having a plan B, because Sean and I, we talk about this all the time, and it just reminds me of, a couple of things, right? One of my favorite poets is Charles Bukowski, and he has a poem called, you know, Go All the Way, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
A beautiful poem, and I'm going to share the link in the show notes so our audience can read it. But it's super impactful, and it speaks to what you're talking about. And another story is of Hernan Cortez when he conquered Mexico. Okay. The famous story about burning your boats, right? They landed on the shores of Mexico, completely outnumbered in terms of the army versus the Aztecs. And the way that he, influenced or motivated his troops was to burn the boats. They either win or they die, you know? Wow. Yeah. And I think, like, you know, when we are able to take I guess, a bit of a step back and zoom out and look at life more on a macro level. Like you said before, you touched on this before, we only have, I guess, one life, right? And it's not necessarily about the career per se. It's not necessarily about, how much, economic success that you have, financial success, all these sorts of things. It's about pursuing the things that you love. Because I remember, like you said, we went to school together, and like my love and my passion back then was basketball, and I was pretty good. No, look, I was good, right? I was good back then, but like, because of others, like, I guess, practical circumstances, my parents, they worked like, 2 jobs each, and they didn't have the means to sort of take me to and from practice when I was getting to a stage when I needed to go to practice 2-3 times for state and all that sort of thing. That the decision was to stop playing, and that I guess that's a big what if in my life. So it certainly is, I guess, it's a controversial, I guess, take on things, but I think that it's the difference between wanting to walk a path that is predetermined and it's very comfortable and everything is known and it's black and white, versus something that a path that you, I guess, pave for yourself, which you are very, I guess, content and fulfilled with.
Yeah, it's very scary at times. Definitely this year, everything was great. And then COVID hit, and my show got shut down. And then all the jobs for the rest of the year that I was working on, the arts just sort of, boom, bottomed out. So that was really scary. And the last like 8 or 9 months, I, have been questioning quite a lot. But I was like, no, I love this. And this is, what I want to be doing and what I have been doing. It doesn't mean, and dealing with, we find a lot of our career and our job can sometimes really take over our identity sometimes. So things that I like looked into the last 8 or 9 months was you're not your job. You're not what you do. You are who you are. And then what you do is a plus on that. And so that's something I've really because I've always been working and I've always had the next job or the next project and the next exciting thing. And then this year it sort of went, and I was like, okay, no, you know who you are, continue doing everything that you're doing. It's just, we're in a crazy pandemic and, this is all out of your control. But I think it's, a good thing to look at because, some people do live the black and white, and that's completely fine. It's very stable and I would highly recommend it. But also if you have a passion and a love, there's a way that you can do what you want to do. There is a way that you can make it happen, even if it is while you have to continue having your your steady income or your 9 to 5. You can still find another way to do your passion outside of that, I think.
For sure. And, I would echo the sentiments of both of you. I've heard that, and it's true in my mind that, when you've got plan B, it means plan A is a bad idea. A lot of times, right? Because otherwise, why would you come up with a plan B?
Yeah.
And when I've also heard it in other terms, it's called zero options mentality, right? So when you give yourself you've got 0 options except the one that you are choosing to go for.
Mm-hmm.
And when you do that, right, you've got no other option. You're going to focus all your efforts on that. And you kept saying that word, that you just kept focusing, right? You kept focusing on what you wanted and going towards that goal. And I really wonder if you can have that sort of focus if you don't put that type of 0 options mentality in your mind or not, right? It's worked out very well for you. I've seen it work out very well for a lot of people that have chosen that path. And on the flip side, when you do have a plan B, and I've done it myself, you kind of lose the fire for plan A. Right. It happens. I've seen it happen. And while I guess, some might call us irresponsible for encouraging people to just burn their boats or, not have a backup plan, I think there's definitely something to be said and people need to consider about the focus and the determination you have to getting to where you feel you want to go by cutting all those other options out.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's, the 100 in, it's like if you have 2 options, it's like, okay, 80% on this, but then I'm going to put 20% over here. So then it's, you know, you're compartmentalizing your dreams and the things you want to achieve. And so then that's how much effort this is going to, you know, that's how much you're going to get back from this is 80%. I mean, we all want 100 back from something. So we should put 110% in on that one thing. And then if it doesn't work out, okay, redirect. But that's the type of girl I am.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people don't think like that. They're like, it's so risky. And I'm like, yeah, you know, but we take risks to grow in life.
Oh, for sure. And you just mentioned something else then as well. It's like, you know, if you put in 80%, we all want 100. And if you want 100, you got to put in 110. And
Right.
this is something that, you know, I've come to realize as well. It's like we usually get as a result the level under the effort we put in.
Right.
Right. So it's like if you put in a good effort, you're going to get a pretty mediocre result. You put in a great effort, you're going to get a good result. You put in like an extraordinary effort, you're going to get a great result. And then if you put in like an unbelievable effort, that's when you're going to get the extraordinary result. So it's always like the effort you put in doesn't always come back to you in the same, you know, same capacity. And I think there's something for that for people to think about as well, right? It's like if you really, really, really want something, it's going to take a lot, and not just giving it if you put in a bit, you're only going to get a very little bit back, I think.
Yeah. I mean, it's effort and it's, you know, it's maths, I guess, as well. But then it's, you know, it's, that like focusing in and putting all into it. Otherwise, you know, we see it with, you know, with sportsmen and everything. It's like if you see them losing steam on the field or whatever. I can't believe I'm giving a sports analogy. I think there's so much football here in Australia. I've been overwhelmed. I'm like, how is there football on the TV every single, distraction. But yeah, you know, the effort you put in is what you're going to get back. And I think that's always, exactly how I'm like, and knowing too, like a lot of my work is getting out of an audition or coming out of a self-tape or looking back at my self-tapes and going, okay, and knowing how to like look at, why'd you do that? Where did you make a mistake? How could you do better? And like constantly assessing yourself and like going, all right, then next time, okay, then this next time I'm going to change this and learn from this and do that. So it takes a lot of self-evaluation as well, I think. Yeah.
That's fascinating to me. I mean, self-evaluation and reflection is just one of those things. I guess it's a requirement for growth, right, in all aspects. And I think that we talk about that a lot, just in terms of, you know, in a general sense. But I'd love for you to contextualize that, because I guess I'm fascinated about the audition process and what this looks like. And I guess, you know, I'm sure you've been to hundreds of these in your lifetime. You know, talk us through what it's like. And I guess to me, it seems very unnatural. You know what I mean? It seems like a very unnatural thing to be doing, putting yourself out there. Like, for example, you know, me even uploading videos from the podcast or whatever, it still has a level of discomfort for me. But you're doing that as part of your job. And like you said, there's a lot of rejection in it. But in that reflection, there's, you know, it's riddled with lessons as well.
Yeah.
So I'd love for you to talk to us about the audition process a little bit more.
Yeah. Oh gosh, it's strenuous. It's full on. Okay, the dance audition process is quite. The actual process is quite full on. You get a call from your agent. I'm just going to talk you through the technical side of it. Is that boring or is that fine?
No. Love to hear about that.
Okay,
Yeah.
you get a call from your agent and they're like, okay, this TV show, let's say Breaking Bad. Breaking Bad is going to have a scene with, you know, 20 dancers. And I've submitted you. So they submit you in, which means they submit in your like headshot, your resume, and your reel, basically. And then you get an audition. They're like, great, we want to see her. You go in, you sign up when you first walk in, and then you go into the room and there's hundreds or, you know, sometimes you don't know, there could be lots and lots, or it could be a really small call, which is like 20. And you're in the room with just the choreographer and the director and the producers. And yeah, basically you learn like the routine and you do it to the best of your ability. And then you audition 2 or 3 at a time in front of the panel. And then they'll either tell you to stay or tell you to leave. which is like pretty quick, or sometimes they'll be like, thank you, everybody, we will let you know. And so you go away. Sometimes you won't hear anything at all, which means you didn't get it. Sometimes you'll be told, Laura was great, but she's not what we're looking for. Or sometimes you get a call, you're on hold. And they're looking to book you. Are you still available these dates? Blah, blah, blah. And then it's different. For acting, I've been going out quite a lot the last couple of weeks, which has been great. And that's different. They've all been self-tests. So I get the role, I get the lines, I do my work on it, on the character and everything for as long as I can, up until I self-tape myself. And then I'll put, my work up, I'll assess it, I'll judge it. And then it comes a point where you're like, I've got to send this off. This is it. This is the one. Sometimes you'll send them off a couple of options, and then you send it off, and then they'll be like, great, we want Laura to actually read for this role now. We see her as this, or thank you so much. We don't need to see any more. And that's like the technical side of it. And then there's many other things that happen along the way. Sometimes, I've had all different experiences where I've been told, you're just not right. The way you look isn't what we're looking for. You're too short. Or you're too tall, or all these things out of your control. So the best thing for me, what I do after I've had auditions, especially if it's lines and things, I get my script and I throw it away as soon as I walk out of the audition. So I'm like, I'm done, out of sight, out of mind. I did my work. And then with dance ones, same thing. As soon as I step out of the room, I try not to dwell on it. There's been times when I'll go back and get into my car and I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, cringe. That was so bad. But it's best just to like let it go, because most of the times when I've walked out and I've been like, that was terrible, I'm so embarrassed. I've called my agent and said, please let them know I'll come back in and do it different. They've called and said, actually, they want to put you on hold for the job. And then the ones I walk out and I'm like, I nailed it. I don't hear a thing. So you don't know. But in that, saying that, there's a lot of rejection with it. And it's just about walking out of the room and knowing like when to let it go. I think it's just letting it go, knowing that it wasn't right for you for some way or another. During my time, because I've been back here for the last 9 months, but in the States, it was like, there's quite a lot, and I was working quite a bit, and then there was a lot of rejection along with all the successes. But what I would do is go, because this is what really helped me, and this is what actually came into this is what actually visualized what happened actually, is I would not be picked for something, and then the next, I wouldn't get a job that I was like, that would have been amazing. And then the next week something will come in and I'll go out, and then literally I'm in a girl group, an American girl group, and we are recording in the studio that Miley Cyrus, Selena Gomez, Vanessa Hudgens is literally in the next studio. And then they're like, so we want to sign you for 3 years, and then it's like all of a sudden my path has been taken this way. And then who knew it was going to turn into like a 3 or 5 year journey of recording music, touring, performing in like countries. And yeah, so it was just going like, okay, next week or the next time there's going to be something that is for me, and the universe will align with what's right for me. And I think having trust in that, I think whenever I had walls up or resistance, then nothing really panned out. Whenever I let go, just let it go, then things just happen to find their way.
Yeah. And and I'm sure all these experiences, from the age of, pre-16 and things like this would have helped in terms of building some form of mental resilience for you. Because like you said, those situations that you're describing in terms of going into rooms full of people who are competing for the same roles as you are, to me, it seems like incredibly daunting, and, you would immediately have your sort of blinders on, or you might start assessing the room, saying, oh, this person looks better than me, or this, all that sort of thing, right? I'm sure all of that comes with it. And I guess that sort of, again, bolsters the fact that you've been able to, build such a amazing career for yourself and come so far, because, the resilience you have in the industry and the type of, I guess, work that is necessary. It's quite cutthroat, it seems, you know. Um,
Yeah.
I want to jump into BG5. I mean,
Yeah.
tell us about how you sort of landed that, because like you said, it's a little bit of a sidestep or a different direction to your, you know, traditional dancing career. And like, you know, I personally found about it because my then girlfriend, now wife, used to watch the Kardashians, and I saw you on freaking TV, and I was like, holy shit, I went to school with that girl, you know. So, you know, how did that happen?
So that it was an audition for an American girl group that was going on tour for a professional volleyball. It was really crazy, professional volleyball tour, and it was doing like 28 cities. I didn't know anything about volleyball, you know, whatever. They were looking for singer, dancer, actors, and but little did we know they were actually looking to seriously put together a group. They were just saying it was going to be spot dates and you guys will be the entertainment. And volleyball over there is huge. Like they set up these huge like arenas, like in all these different cities. They even on some of the, like in Cincinnati and some places, like flew in sand to make like a full field of sand. It was nuts. But we were the entertainment for that. So that audition, I was like, I'm not American, but I'll go. My agent was like, go, because you are a triple threat and that's what they want to see. So I went, and then we did the dance call, and that lasted all day. It was quite a lot that we learned. And then I got asked to come back the next day and sing. And so then I came back the next day and I attempted singing the American national anthem, which was terrible. I was like, oh, say. I learned as much as I could because they told me to sing it. And then they were like, okay, you know, you've had 6 hours to learn this, so just sing something else for us. So I sang something else. And then they called me back again the next day, and we had chats about what was going to happen. And then they ended up booking me. So it was me and 4 American girls. And we went on a tour to different places where they, you know, did the pro volleyball tour. And I got to see a lot of America. That was amazing because I was like, oh, this is great. I got to see like Louisiana and Miami and all these places I'd never seen in the States. So that was a plus. And we were the entertainment. So in between games, we'd come on and do like a 20 or 30-minute set. We'd sing original songs that we had recorded previously in the studio. And then we would sing some covers, I think, as well. And then at the beginning of the games, we would sing the American national anthem. So then I was like thrown into this American girl group. And then we started recording music and we released a single and went to the UK and London. But it was a sidestep in my career because I was always used to performing behind artists, you know, and working on different TV shows where I was like the backup dancer. Or so this was a different, because they were like, you're a star, you have to be a star, you're a star, you know. So we had, you know, I had to sort of rewire and take on my own, you know, star quality, I guess, or whatever. But they were really they were really putting a lot of time and effort into producing us, and they produced all our music and everything. And then our manager had a connection with the Kardashians, and then their mom, Chris, was like, I'm really interested in meeting with them. So we met with them, and then she was like, I want to manage you guys. So we went on their TV show. And then, met all the Kardashians. Actually, Kylie Jenner downloaded Instagram on my, fun fact, she downloaded Instagram on my phone. Back in the day. She was like, she grabbed my phone, we went over there for dinner, and she was like, hey, Laura, she went around to all the girls and she downloaded Instagram. And she's like, this is going to be huge. She's like, I just signed up for it. Sign in and follow me. So she downloaded all our phones, made our accounts, and then followed herself on all.
What a hustle. That's real. What a cool story.
Yeah. And then come to know, she's like, becomes, you know, she's huge now. She's had a lot of success. Yeah. But she was on it back in the day. But yeah, that's how I got into the girl group. And then, yeah, it was an awesome experience. It was good.
And you know, when they kept telling you, be a star, be a star, be a star, right? Like you're a star. Did
Yeah.
you not feel like you were a star up until that point?
I, this is a little bit of this Australian thing. I think it's like, I know, you have to at some extent know that you are talented and that you have the skill and you've been working. I train all the time. I'm constantly working on my skills and I'm constantly growing and evolving and getting better and better and better. But there's that a little bit of Australianness in me where it's like, oh, don't say you're too good.
Yeah.
You can't be too good. It's different it's different in America. Americans are, very, very confident and unafraid to say how talented they are or, how hard they work or that kind of thing. And I think I wasn't used to talking about that. And I hadn't grown up in the climate that sort of encouraged that talk, where, because here it's a little bit like, oh, okay, don't say how good you are a little bit.
Yeah. And then when you were in that environment, did that change for you? Like once you...
Yeah, like there it's all like, you better walk in that room and you better be confident, because there is, like I said, it's a team. There is a whole team of you. It's not just you and these girls going on stage to perform. It's the producers, it's, all these other people. It's a big, massive team. And, everyone has to be so confident and so good at what they do and constantly at the best level that they can be, so that this team can like elevate and achieve what they want to achieve. So I really, like, once I learned that and saw that into fruition with everybody around me, and knowing that everybody has to be at 110% for the machine to do what it has to do, then it's like, yeah, you better be as confident as you can be. I mean, and humble. It's really nice to be humble, but especially when you're walking on stage and you're in front of crowds of thousands and thousands, and you're doing, there's a team of lights and sound and all these people behind you and producers and months of rehearsal, then you have to walk out of that, behind that curtain with utter confidence and life. And
Yep. And I guess there's a difference as well between like humility and modesty, especially in that situation, right? Like being modest in that role isn't going to really get you that far. It's a performance. That's why you're there, right? But knowing that, you've got to put in the work, keep improving and putting that effort in and supporting the whole team, having the humility for that is huge. But then I guess, being modest and being like, oh, well, I'm not that good isn't really going to help you in that spot. And you put in the work too. Like everything you're explaining to us is this incredible amount of work that I just think people don't consider or we don't see, obviously, right? We see the beautiful finished product of you performing. I think it's really interesting that, you're in this industry and, where people, I guess, would imagine like she must have the ultimate confidence to be able to do what she does. And she must think she's awesome, but like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, for sure. And like, you do have to have that element, of that for sure. I remember when I did America's Got Talent, this was one of the most nervous moments I ever had been, because I had previously in the quarterfinals, I had broken, badly bruised, but they were fractured 2 ribs. And because I had been thrown too high and I came down on my partner's shoulder, and I was in the worst pain. And the next day I had to perform the quarterfinals. But what I was saying with the team is we had a Hungarian visual projection group called Freelusion, and they were all over in Hungary. And there was maybe 30 or 40 of them that had been working on these visuals for months for this story. And then we had been working for, weeks and weeks with the choreographer every single day, like 8 to 10 hours a day on the choreography, and getting it all aligned with the visuals, because we had to be, there was marks all over the floor. We had to be in certain spots at different times. And then you have like the producers who are all involved in putting everything together. And then you have NBC, where they're those producers that are your segment producers who want you to win. And then you have like, and that's that team. And then the whole NBC, cameras, lighting, everything. And then the judges. And anyway, we got to like the semifinals and I had recovered a bit. But I remember right before I went on stage, it was just me and my dance partner, and the choreographer looked at us, and I could see the choreographer and the producers in the side. And then the producer from NBC turned to me and was like, just so you know, we've hit a record tonight. This was a live TV show. We are at 12 million. We have 12 million viewers tuned in. And this was like, right, I have goosebumps. It was like right before we were about to do this one performance, you know, in front of, you know, Howard Stern, Heidi Klum, Howie Mandel, and what was it, Mel B from the Spice Girls. And I could just see them there. And I was like, oh, everything was flowing through me. And we'd been working for months, but it wasn't just me. It was teams of people, you know, and they all wanted us to win. And it was just on me and DJ, my dance partner. But that's the excitement. That's the part of it. And that's where it's like, all right, all this training, it's time to step up, and you're representing everybody here and all their hard work. And you just have to have the confidence in those times. You know, like you've just gotta, and you have to trust too that you've done the work and it's going to be there for you. And now it's just time to like perform and live in the moment when you're on stage. It's fun.
Was it more intimidating with Mel B on the panel since you were such a big Spice Girls fan?
I was so starstruck by her when she was side stage. I was like, hi, she said, hello, you guys are phenomenal. I was like, oh, I love you. Yeah, I told her that I had posters of her in my room when I was little. I said they covered the walls, and she was like, oh, I love that. She's like, I'm going to have posters of you now. She was really nice.
Yeah. I want to talk more about your experience with Freelution, because I saw some of the videos that I guess was strewn all across the internet, you know, with your performances, and really it's like the first time I've ever seen anything like it. Like it's absolutely amazing in terms of what the visual experience is. You know, not only is it like you said earlier before, using you know, your body, your instrument, you know, in terms of telling a story in the art form of dance, but it's also projecting, you know, lighting and 3D stuff. I don't even know how to explain it, and it's just like a completely different, I guess, storytelling experience. And this sort of moves into what you were saying before about where your passion truly lies and where it's slowly evolving toward right now in terms of, you know, your writing and things like this. The art form of dance has always been something that, you know, has, you know, I guess it's like eluded me in terms of how that can be interpreted or expressing, I guess, certain feelings and emotions. You know, it's a beautiful art form visually. You know, I love to watch a ballet and things like this, but my medium is word. You know, like we was talking about before coming on. Like I'm a writer. I love you know, rhetoric and things like this, and just deep conversation through the medium of word. But tell us about, I guess, you know, from the artist's point of view, how does one as a dancer or an artist who uses the medium of their body express themselves the way that you do and tell a story like you do?
Yeah, I think it comes from great, you know, there's a foundation to everything. You know, with writing, it's like the first book that you read or the first thing that inspires you. I think with dance, it's, you know, the training and developing the skill, like from ballet and then moving into modern contemporary, and then however your dance art form, you know, evolves. But I think that with dance, you know, once you have all that skill and you have all that training and that foundation, and that continues throughout your entire career, you're constantly training and keeping your body strong and your mind strong. But I think, yeah, with dance and storytelling, it's just being able to express with your body and being able to move the way that you can when you have all that skill set, and then you're given choreography, and then you're given a sense of freedom within the world of movement. Then it's, I think, when the storytelling comes alive. Freedom in terms of you know it, it's all set in the movement, you know what's going to happen, and now it's about bringing it to life and about storytelling through it. I think, you know, my favorite, I've always been inspired by them, the Netherlands Dance Theatre, and Sydney Dance Company's work all the time as well. They're beautiful. They constantly are like pushing the boundaries with dance and movement and creating stories with them, and those are, you know, two companies that really inspired me growing up. And I didn't want to just like do dance moves. I wanted to also tell stories with it. And I think my teacher, Lisa, she was a storyteller, and she constantly would be asking us when we would have to choreograph pieces, what's the story behind it? What does this movement mean? You know, why are you doing this? What does this mean? You know, everything takes on meaning because of the way that you're expressing your body and the way that you're using it. So I guess it's just, I think for me, having, you know, your inspirations constantly, and I had a really great mentor, and then evolving myself. You know, I improvise a lot on my own. I'll, you know, get home and I've had a bad day, or I haven't booked something, or I'm like, I need to quit, I need to stop. And then I'll always come back to dance. I'll put on a song, and before I know it, I'm expressing, you know, if it's sadness, or I'm at home and I'm, you know, my lounge room is a big, massive space, and I just put on music and I allow myself to emote through movement. And that has always been my savior. I think, like, in times when I've been really sad, or in times when I've been really happy, I put on my music and I move. And it has been like a huge outlet for me. And I think that's, you know, with dance artists, I think improvisation and your relationship to dance. You know, some people don't like to improvise and they don't have that relationship with dance. They're like, I like to be taught the steps, I like to be choreographed, and that's that. But my relationship to dance has been, you know, it's my form of expression, and that's why I've stayed with it for so long. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, totally, absolutely. And I think what I got from it is, I guess you're using it as a vehicle for emotional outlet or emotional expression in you know, whatever aspect. Like, I mean, it seems like it is what I guess resonates with you, like word does with me. You know, the way that I sort of can relate with it is if I'm having some sort of heavily emotive day, I will sit down and I'll express it in the form of a poem, you know, or just journal about it or something like this, right? But the point is to express oneself and not keep the emotions within for whatever. Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah, I think it's, if you can find those outlets, like where people play music and music therapy and all these types of things. I think dance therapy, but I think for, you know, dance artists, it's you know, it's why we get on stage, it's why we move, it's why we do what we do, because being able to tell a story with our body, and then, you know, having the skill and foundation to be able to do that is like pretty, I found it remarkable. I've loved it. But there's lots of ways through art that we can do that. You know, I think everyone can.
Totally.
Yeah.
And so you mentioned that you know, you're working on a screenplay now and using all of your faculties. So could you tell us more about that and how you've transitioned into this stage now?
Yeah, so I 2 years ago I started writing with my girlfriend. She's a writer in LA, and she and I started to come up with concept for like a thriller. She works with a production company, and they are always looking for new screenplays. And she was like, I've always written, like when I was in the girl group, I had the chance to be able to write music and play around with poems, and we worked with different producers. And then even my girlfriend Vanessa, her and I at one point, we weren't working and we started working on a project together. We were writing music. And so writing has always sort of been a you know, something I go to as well. And I'm that person, I have thousands of notes in my phone. Like I'm the same, Leslie. I'll go in and I'll write down, you know, poems, or I'll write down what I'm feeling constantly, or I'll write down, you know, to do like everything. I'm constantly writing. So she sort of approached me, my girlfriend, and was like, do you want to write a screenplay together? So we started writing one. And then we both booked jobs and things happened, so nothing came of it. And then the pandemic hit, and I was in self-isolation when I got off the plane from America, and I had to go into self-isolation. And so I started to write because I was just in a shoebox. And so I wrote a short and I sent it to my girlfriend, Kim. And she was like, hey, this is great. Do you want to pick up our screenplay we started writing? So then her and I started collaborating together. We would get on final draft, and we get on in the mornings from 8 until noon. And my time, which is her 3 p.m. in LA till 6 or 7. And then we collaborate, and we came up with basically the process of is we outline an entire story, and then we write the script for it. So we wrote one, we looked at it. Her husband's a screenwriter, and a couple other people of her friends are screenwriters. They looked at it and they were like, you need some help with structure and things. Study these textbooks and then have another go. And so her and I, for a couple of months, put ourselves through school, and we would read these textbooks and then would come back to each other each day and talk about what we learned, read out what we learned. And then a month later, we applied it and wrote a new screenplay. And then now we're on our second one. Yeah. So, yeah, it was kind of just like, I'm a cinephile, so I watch a lot of films, and I'm watching TV constantly. And I'm acting, so I'm a storyteller. So, you know, the writing more so has helped me massively with acting, and just understanding, you know, the world within the characters and everything like that. I know now how to design that world and how to write it. So that's been helpful. But yeah, it's exciting. We've written a thriller, which I'm actually really excited by it. So we'll see if anything comes of it next year. And then we are currently writing a romantic Christmas movie. So cool. Yeah, that's been really fun. And she's good. She's really strict. So we get on every day and write for 3 or 4 hours a day. And it's sort of just chipping away at it.
Okay. I'd love to talk to you about that, because, you know, you're clearly someone who knows how to put in the work and, you know, keep on honing and honing and honing. And you mentioned that you wrote a screenplay, and then your girlfriend's husband had a look and said, you might need to work on the structure a bit, go back and study that. And you jumped in and did that. And now you just mentioned that, you know, your girlfriend's quite strict with the timing, and you're very regimented. Has that really helped you along the process? Do you feel that's been a big part of it?
Yeah, massively. I think it's like setting goals and sticking to them. You know, her and I are sort of like, we really want to pitch these 2 scripts next year. So, and with writing, it's all about, you know, having a draft, looking at it, sitting it down, coming back to it, rewriting it again, looking at it, going, okay, how about we move a bit of this, this, and this, and how about we change that character to this? But I really immerse myself in worlds. Like when the pandemic hit and I was like, okay, the theater's out and auditions are done and productions are shut down, I really used it as a creative outlet. So I went all in. I go for a long walk every day for about an hour, and I've been listening to Final Drafts podcast, and they have a podcast called Write On, and they bring on writers every day, and it's writers that are from TV shows and films, and they talk about their process. So I learned a lot from listening to other writers and hearing about their process. Mm-hmm. And then basically just imagining, like we'd come up with stories, and then I'd imagine, and things would pop into my head, like what if this character does this, and what if she ends up following this trail? And so I'd write it in my notes, and then we'd get back the next morning, and I'm the one that gets on, and I have a page of ideas and notes, and Kim is very much she's the structure girl. So she's sort of like, okay, this will fit here and here. Why don't we put those in there? But I think it's like having her and I, we're very focused, but also we're opposites. We're quite opposites as people. She's like probably more organized and type A, and I'm sometimes this, whoa, I have all like 50 ideas. And then she's like, great. And then the 2 of us just sort of works.
Yeah. It sounds like a great partnership. It really does. And I'm interested in that. The reason I asked you about doing it that sort of regimented way is because you're essentially talking about a creative process.
Right.
And a lot of the time we're told, you just got to let it flow and it flows. But, what you're explaining to me now is that having that structure and really coming back to it every day and honing it is what's helped you to get the result that you guys are after.
Yeah. I think, we would always stick to it. And hey, there'd be times, because I'd get on from 8 in the morning until, 8, 9, 10, 11 or 12. We'd write for 3 or 4 hours. That's probably the cap on it. 4 hours we'd be pushing it, because it's sort of, you're sitting there and you're on Zoom. And but there's some days we'd get on and we would get, an outline done in a week, and we would just be so focused. And then the next week we start the script writing of it. And one of the times, a couple of times this happens, we'll get on and we just have chats. We have like therapy sessions, and we'll sit there and like, how you doing? She's like, and we won't work for a couple of hours. And then the last 30 minutes, we're like, okay. And then we'll hone into the story again. But I think that, like, we're not pushing it when it needs to be pushed. There's times when we'll get on and it'll just be like literally therapy. And we're like, how you going? She's like, well, my husband's doing this shit thing. So, and then, we'll chat and I'm like, oh, trust me, I had the worst day yesterday. And so we'll chat. But then I think that friendship and that creative, we have an understanding with each other. And then we both have a goal. Like, we want to get the screenplay done, and we're excited about what we're writing. And yeah, it's been working out.
Yeah. I think that's sort of representative of the creative process. It's not just one or the other, right? There's a little bit of flow, a little bit of hustle. Like, I think that little dichotomy here that Sean and I have is sort of representative of that in my mind, because I think that, that creative note-taking, brain dump is like the creative flow. But then there needs a funnel to refine all that and put it into the right place and make sure that it is, it fits where because like I said before, I'm writing a book at the moment, and I'm experiencing exactly the same thing. I've got like a shitload of notes that I just keep taking, but then I have to refocus on the premise of the book. I've got all these ideas that are skirting on the outside that might make sense, but they're probably better suited in another book. They might take away from, the overall argument that I'm trying to make. So yeah, it's a beautiful harmony there. Like, it's not always one way or another, right? There's always like this nice, give and take, a nice flow. There's structure and sometimes there's flow sometimes,
Do you go by an outline with your book? I don't know how to write a book. Do you have like an outline or anything? Like, how does that work?
Yeah. So to be honest, like the book that I'm writing, to give you a bit of an idea, it sort of just popped out of nowhere. Like, literally, I was meditating one day and then the idea just came to my head. I'm like, holy shit, it's a pretty good idea, and it's pretty representative of who I am and the work that I'm doing right now. And I think that in terms of timing, to give you an idea, I've already like half written 2 other books, and I'm like, I've got to put those 2 in the back burner. I must, because this has to come first. So it started as like a random idea, and then I started to think about putting a structure to it, which is an outline essentially. And like the way that I see it is, it's just like any sort of overwhelming task that you want to take on. The best way to attack it is to sort of break it down and chunk it down into pieces that are sort of digestible for you one point at a time. So the way that I see it is, my book is going to be a collection of, a number of essays, several essays, and those make up the chapters. So yeah, that's how I've sort of outlined it, to tell the story gradually. But yeah, like I said, my mind is just running, and I have ideas that are sort of skirting on the outside of this book, and they kept sort of taking my direction one way or another. And I have to consistently sort of bring myself back and say, all right, this is the premise. It's very simple, take them on the journey, and let's not sort of fluff about it too much on the edges, because you've got another, however many books in the future. So yeah.
But it's like about sort of zoning in. I think with what helps me, I get flimsy with structure. So I have like this, which is what we go by.
Oh yeah.
Script writing. And so I'll put this up, because sometimes And then she's like, no, we're at page 30. We're in the push to the breaking point of this character. And I'm like, okay, when I have those things, I am very visual. So when I have them around me, then I'm like, okay, focus, we're doing this section in. But I feel like a script would be, yeah, similar to, because you have an overarching theme and then you sort of coming back to it. Yeah, it's really great. That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, a book. Whoa, that's crazy.
Yeah, so I guess 2021 is when I'm hoping to at least have something in the works with regards to publishing, whether that's the process or actually publishing. Let's see what happens. But you know, for me to put it out to the world puts a little bit more pressure on me, which is cool.
Yeah, you set a deadline and you're like, okay, we'll get it done.
That's it.
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah.
That's what I did for this. We were like, let's try and get this Christmas movie done by Christmas.
Makes sense.
But we've written the outline and now we haven't written the script yet, but we don't know, it could take us 2 weeks to write the script. We start back up again tomorrow. So
yeah. No, it sounds like a really nice relationship. Sort of reminds me of Sean and I's, you know. Sometimes I'm keeping this guy in line a little bit with his desires to go for coffees and all these sorts of things, and vice versa. So yeah.
Coffees are good. I get it. I've been back in Australia and I'm like, I have been having 2 or 3 a day. I've got to stop. Australian coffee is just...
It's so good, right? That's why I'm always like, so we have these set meetings. So I'm one of those people, things come up all the time. So I do a lot of different things and I'm very used to chopping and changing my schedule on a daily basis, hour to hour.
Yeah.
And, you know, the one thing which has been consistent for me for the past few months is these meetings that Les and I have on stuff that we're working on together.
Yeah.
And I'm always like, hey man, can we go have coffee this place and do it? And he's like, just come to my place, man. Like, it's like, we just got to do this. Whereas like we'd go to coffee and I'd do yeah, man, so this is happening and that's happening. And what do you think about this? And then we'd have 5 minutes left and we're like, all right, we got to get through this hour of work on it. And I'm like, we'll do it. We'll get there.
It always gets done in the end.
It always gets done. But it's really cool to have, you know, someone in your life that can balance you out and funnel things where they need to be funneled. I think we all need that.
Yeah, I think that's why you see a lot of, in my industry too, you constantly start seeing people working with the same people because they like, you know, they've built a friendship and a relationship and they understand what each other likes and what they don't like. And then, you know, you sort of get and if you have a good partnership in the work world going, then it's like, great. I think that's exciting. I don't know. The fact that Kim during the pandemic she saved me because I was like, what am I going to do? I can't go to gyms because things were shut. I can't train anywhere. My show's shut down. Nothing's happening. I started reading a lot and then I needed a creative outlet. And it was good, but synchronicity just sort of happened.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's beautiful when that does happen, right? Because, like to be frank, and I've told Les this, you know, the things that we're working on together right now, just the way that I operate. So I'm good at executing certain things in certain ways, very efficient, very good at that. But we're working on now, I'm not, you know, and I'm out of my comfort zone on it, but having his guidance and keeping us on track is really the reason that it's actually progressed. Because, you know, if it wasn't for how Les is driving the process, I would have probably veered so far off it and I would have been like, yeah, I'll just leave that on the back burner and come back to it probably in like 7 years time. And then would have been doing something else. Right. So I think it's really important to find those people, identify them. And it's also cool when you enjoy the company, right? Like it sounds like you enjoy Kim's company. And I think that's really important element for people to consider as well. Like,
yeah, she's great. She's great. And that's the thing, like when you're working in a team or you're working with people, you start to figure out like people's like strengths and what they bring. And then where you step up to the plate and that's where you find like the balance in it, you know, rather than trying to do it all. I think that was something I learned quite along the way. I was like, I can do it all, you know, and then it was like, no, you know, hone in on the things that you're really good at and focus on those. And, you know, you don't need to do everything. You know, do everything.
I think that's sort of like a little bit of the story that you sort of told and shared with us today. You know, when a lot of people think about a professional dancer, they might be, you know, a solo act, but like you've you know, reiterated the fact that it's always about the team and all these, you know, different intricate pieces working towards the same goal, coming together. And I think it's important to sort of again, take a step back and look at that sort of principle in all aspects of life, right? I mean, we can't do it all in all aspects. To attempt to do it on your own is to operate with tunnel vision and to assume that you know, the eyes that you see the world through are absolute and sees all, but that's obviously not the case. I mean, that's why Sean and I like to have these conversations, because everyone brings a different perspective. They've walked different paths in life, and you know, we always learn something, Sean and I, through these conversations, which is a beautiful thing. So yeah,
it's good. It's good. It's about being a good listener too, a lot of the time as well, right?
totally.
And knowing when you can add value or take it away, you know, when you learn.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, Laura, it has been wonderful reconnecting with you on a personal level, but it has been a pleasure to speak to you again as part of the podcast. I'd love to just give you the floor to, you know, share with the audience where they can, you know, find more about you, find you and connect with you, things like this. So the floor is yours.
Yeah, you can find me, I guess, on Instagram, on Kylie Jenner's Instagram, at Laura, LauraJayneNeW, Laura Jean New. That's my Instagram handle. I'm not very good with Facebook. I'm like here and there with it. And yeah, I guess that would be, I have a website. I'm lauranude.com, but I haven't updated it in years. So you could check out what I did 3 years ago on that. But other than that, like Instagram and I think my email might be on the website page. But thanks for having me, you guys.
No, it was our pleasure. It was our pleasure. We're going to put all that information in the show notes so people can find you. Shauna, where can people find you, mate?
Also on Instagram. So easiest place is there. So just Sean _Coop, SHAUN_COOP. You can just drop me a message there and slide on the DMs. I'll get back to you. And how about you, Les?
Yeah, you can find me through my website, findingspace.co. You can find out about what I'm doing through there. It's pretty up to date, I think. So yeah, if you want to send me a message through there or email anything, inquire about anything through there, feel free. Otherwise, Facebook or Instagram, it's also findingspace.co. You can also reach Sean and I through our email address, the Hustle and Flow podcast @gmail.com. If you want to find out more about this episode, if you want to connect with Laura, if you want to come on as a guest, anything at all, just send us an email and say good day.
And yeah, just want to take another moment just to acknowledge you, Laura. Thank you very much for being here today. Like your passion and your energy, like it just exudes from you. It's amazing. I love it. And, you know, I really hope that people, you know, take on that energy and do something with it themselves. Like you've lived this very inspirational life until this point, and, you know, you're still going and going and going, and I'm sure you'll keep going. I can just feel that is going to be the path for you, which is amazing. It's really cool. It's really, really cool.
Thanks for having me. This is really nice. I had a lot of fun. It was really nice to chat to you guys. It's nice talking to others that are following their passions.
No, it's cool. No, thank you. Appreciate that too. Glad you enjoyed it.
Photo? Do you take a photo of this or no?
How does one take a screen cap?
Let me
I
see.
can screen cap it.
You can?
Cap it. Yeah. Ready? Hold on.
Hold on, are you going to do it?
Yeah, I'll do it.
Okay.
All right. Ready? All right. 1, 2, 3. Got it.
Yay!
Your pose was definitely the best. People will have to jump on and check it out. Maybe we'll just crop you out, but that can be the photo.
I don't know how I learned to pose. Don't even ask me. No. Thanks you guys for having me.
No, thanks so much for joining us again. And, you know, if you're listening to this and you enjoyed the conversation today, you know, felt inspired by some of the things you heard, took a little nugget, please just share it with one other person. That's how we grow the podcasts. Just a little humble request. If you could please oblige us, that'd be great. And, you know, until next time, guys.
See you guys.